If you're still not growing, it's not your genetics, it's training, and science has just proved it. You have been lied about how muscle is built, but not by accident, by the whole industry that actually benefits from keeping you confused. Because the methods that actually build the most muscle, we already know for 50 years, and modern science just catch up. And if you are over 40 or younger and you are still not growing, it's nothing to do with your age. It's your training. Because right now, most people are actually doing everything opposite to what is proven to build muscle and cause growth. Most people have been told that they need to train to failure, and most of them do. All these heavy duty training systems and going to failure are so popular for whatever reasons that you see people literally fighting for their lives while performing every set. But that's wrong. Another thing that has been solved with obviously devastating results for muscle growth is long rest between the sets. So long periods will actually allow you to lift the same weight or more weight in the next set. And also chasing heavier weights every session. I see that every single day, but what I don't see is muscle and growth to follow those philosophies. And all this sounds logical, but physiologically, actually, it blocks growth. And in this video, I will show you how people actually build those amazing physiques in golden era. The methods that they used to build physiques, which everybody dreams about. Everybody wants to look like Arnold, like Frank Zane, like Serge Nubret. Very few people really want to look like modern bodybuilders. And modern research has confirmed actually why those training methods are superior for muscle hypertrophy than the modern trends. And once you see this, you will understand exactly why you have been stuck and why you didn't grow as much as you expected, despite the tremendous effort that most of you have actually put in the gyms. And what about the biggest lie in bodybuilding, that you need to destroy the muscle in order to grow? You have been told that if you don't train harder, if you don't train to failure, if you don't push beyond limits in every session, you will never grow. But there is a problem. Failure doesn't build muscle. Volume does. A lot of people have said to me, oh, Nash, but you didn't prove with any scientific research that what you're saying actually is true. Like they don't believe the whole history of bodybuilding. So everything that has happened in the past, especially golden era, which I mention often as the best example of benefits of volume workouts and similar techniques, if that is not enough, fine. Okay, now I'm going to provide you with scientific research which actually proves why volume training system is best for muscle growth. And not only people in golden era benefited from this. Many in 80s and also in 90s, actually majority of bodybuilders benefited from it. The only thing is that in recent years there is a massive surge in people who are training short, very heavy, low number of reps in order to achieve apparently some superior growth. But in reality, these guys, and I see them in the gym every day, they are really killing themselves in the gym, putting so much effort, but they are not growing. Now, there is a scientific research that actually proves the opposite. Now, when it comes to proximity to failure, which is very important to understand, because a lot of people believe that if you don't train to failure or even beyond failure, you will never build muscle. But there is a meta-analysis done by Refalo, and it's done in 2023, which actually proves that there is no clear advantage of going to momentary failure. You can go to momentary failure, but you don't have to, because hypertrophy occurs across a range of proximity to failure. So you can go close to failure and still achieve the same results as going to failure, but actually you will benefit even more. Why? Because you will be able to do more sets. So overall work will be more. And this accounts for more quality reps, which directly causes muscle growth. So you can go to failure, but the downside, the risks of going to failure are risk of injury, number one, all your connective tissues, your cartilages are going to be exposed too much to stress unnecessarily, and also overstressing CNS, central nervous system. So modern research shows something very clear, and this is that muscle growth correlates strongest with total training volume. The studies done by Schenfield and Grgic in 2017 and 2022 show that hypertrophy correlates strongest with total volume. Training to failure provides no additional benefit when volume is equated. Obviously, just increases the risk of injuries and stressing unnecessarily central nervous system. So sub-failure sets allow for more total work, and that has been proven in this research that you can read. I'm going to link all these scientific papers so in the description so you can actually read them yourself. So failure reduces ability to accumulate volume. So basically, if volume is something that decides about optimal muscle growth, if you go to failure, you will decrease the volume. Now we know it through the research, but also more importantly, we know from experience. Nobody in golden era did few sets per muscle group. They did many sets. They did 20, 30, 40, even more sets, depending on the individuals. So that has been proven not only in the scientific research, but as I mentioned so many times, in reality, in history of bodybuilding, and not just in history. Even now, regardless of natural or enhanced, everybody who has made any success in bodybuilding, overwhelming majority, has done high volume workouts. Most of professional bodybuilders do 20 plus sets per major muscle group. Now they are doing it once a week, while in the past people used to train them twice per week. We know now that regardless of you being natural or enhanced, you will still benefit more if you train muscle once per week with high volume, meaning 20 plus sets. Now, some people who are obviously ignorant and don't watch my videos all the way, they came back and said, so if 20, 30 sets make more muscles, why don't we do 100 sets? I mean, imagine what a silly question that is. Why don't we do 100 sets? Because you're not going to be able to do 100 sets. So if you do everything that I advise for best results possible, if you train every set within the frame of 8 to 12 reps, or more importantly, in the most effective time under tension, which will be anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds for upper body muscles, and if you train your quads with a rep range from 12 to 20 or even more, or more precisely, if you train with a time under tension which will be longer, 45 to maybe 90 seconds for quads, because they will respond better that way, then you will be able to do X amount of sets. This number of sets for, let's say, experienced, natural or enhanced athlete, regardless, will be anywhere from 4, 5, 6 sets per exercise. How many sets like that can one do with high efficiency, meaning you use the same weight and you do 4 or 5 or 6 sets per exercise in the time under tension and perfect form as suggested? You won't be able to do more than 20 to 30 sets for muscle group. And that depends on individual. That depends on experience as well. So there is no way you're going to be doing 100. Because when I say 20 plus sets, 20 to 30, this is not arbitrary. This is the frame of the reality. This is the frame of experience. And if you do, as I said, you will see that you will not be able to do more sets. Most of my training sessions are anywhere from 20 to 30 sets. Sometimes I finish 20, 25. Sometimes I go up to 30. Nothing is written in stone. This is not a recipe. This is a guidance. This is a suggestion. So instead of doing 5, 6 sets per muscle group, as some advocate, or training every muscle group up to 10 sets, and then you train them twice per week, this is very comfortable, very easy life, very good. For most of people, that will be very pleasurable, and this is why it's popular. But what I'm saying is, when you train your muscle, you should train that muscle as much as possible. Why would you stop after 10 sets? People have done 10 sets per muscle. They came to me and they said, you know what, I've done 10 sets for chest on Monday because I'm going to do another 10 sets on Thursday. I said, why would you do that? How did you feel on Monday? Well, I did 10 sets, but, I felt like I could have done more. So you felt you could have done more. So why didn't you do more? Who is the one to say to you, oh, you have to stop at 10? What is the magic about 10? You should have done as many sets as you can. Maybe 16, maybe 20, maybe 25. And once you have finished with your chest, you should allow that whole unit, not just muscle, everything that was involved in that workout, so chest muscles, also tendons, ligaments, cartilages, you have to allow all of them, plus central nervous system, to recover. How long is it going to take for that? In average, it takes about 7 days. Some people can recover in 5 and 6 days. Some people may take even 8 or 9 days. Again, depending on individual. The problem is that most people are actually expecting a perfect recipe, an equation. How many sets, how many reps, how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat. This is impossible. Nobody can give you that. You have to find that yourself. I am giving you a suggestion, I'm giving you a structure, I'm giving you a platform. So you understand now the principles. You want to do 5 movements for chest. You want to do 4, 5, 6 sets per exercise. You want to do 8 to 12 reps. You want to rest as little as possible in order to get maximum benefit. How many you're going to do? Nobody knows. Even you don't know, because in one session you may do 20 sets. In next session you can do 24 or 28, depending on the day, depending on your mood, depending on focus, depending on so many things. But keep this advice as a frame, as a principle, and then try to do as much as you can following the principle. What is going to come out of it? That's irrelevant. You have to decide yourself, try, and over time you will see that will change. You will be progressing. You will be doing more and more sets. It's not going to go ad infinitum. You're not going to end up with some says, oh, why don't we do 100 sets? I mean, a nonsense. So I just want to relate to the thinking of some people who are actually ignorant towards the principles that I'm trying to explain. I'm not inventing it. I'm just reminding you what has been done in golden era and what has been copied and done again and again until now from a majority of people. I've done it myself. Now I'm giving you also scientific evidence. Another important topic that I want to address is that load does not determine hypertrophy. Now, there is a research done by Brad Shenfield in 2017 meta-analysis, and they have found out that hypertrophy is similar across low and high loads. Strength depends on load, but muscle growth depends on tension plus volume, not weight alone. So what that means in reality? That means in reality that the stigma heavyweights, big muscle is absolutely wrong. Muscle doesn't know how much weight you lift. Obviously, this is ego lifting. Most people are concerned about lifting heavier. Lift heavier this time than last time. Next week I have to lift even more heavier. Okay, if you're a power lifter or a weight lifter, fine, do that because this is what your sport demands. But if you talk about muscle growth, that load is not only related to weight, but is also related to tension. You can use the same weight, but you can increase the load, the effort of the muscle by, for example, slowing the repetition, increasing the time under tension, also improving your form. Most of the time, when people try to lift heavier than last time, the form simply flies out of the window. They ruin the form in order they do shorter reps, faster reps, just to lift heavier. You see that every day. Result, no growth. Risk, huge. Risk of injury, very high. Why you are doing this? Obviously, no explanation. So the load, the increase in a muscle tension is not directly related only to weight that you lift, but also the way that you lift that weight. So if you do it slower, it's going to be more stressful for the muscle. if you do longer, it's going to be more stressful for the muscle. If you do full range of motion, it's always going to be harder than doing partial reps. So all these findings are actually documented in that meta-analysis in 2017 led by Brad Shenfield. And again, the link will be in the description, so if interested, you can read it yourself. What about that in reality? Well, again, golden era and most experienced bodybuilders, especially the ones who have achieved fantastic results without any injuries and they are still in great shape, people like Dexter Jackson, Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, many others, they are doing exactly that. They are not just lifting super heavy weights, but they are rather going for full range of motion, perfect form, good time under tension, and high volume. Result, 100% muscle growth, very low risk of injury, and also longevity. These guys are still in very good shape. They're still training, bodybuilding, obviously. They have no injuries whatsoever. So attached to that, as heavy as possible, is obviously going to failure. So going to failure was another big issue. And just ask yourself, why golden era bodybuilders didn't do every set to failure? If that was the case, they would do it, but they didn't. So they trained near failure repeatedly across many sets. And this is how they built that tremendous density. And as you can see on all these images, just look at Sergio Oliva, look at the density of his muscles, every single muscle. Look, Arnold, again, unbelievable shape, density, size. Look at Serge Nubre, best aesthetics, best shape, best conditioning. So how did they do this? They didn't chase super heavy weights. They didn't do every set to failure, but they rely mainly on volume. So once again, another proof from the real world for all these doubters who still don't believe that high volume workout near failure is the best and safest way to build muscle, regardless of you being natural or enhanced. Another important issue that I want to address in this video is obviously rest between the sets. So you're resting too long, and you know what happens when you do that? It's simply killing your growth. Now, you've been told if you rest anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes between sets, that will give you the maximum performance. Yes, it will give you maximum performance if you're a power lifter, because this is exactly what they do. If you're a weightlifter, before you perform certain movement, not exercise, movement, you need to rest. Why? So you fully recover. But bodybuilding is very different. Bodybuilding is nothing to do with this full recovery between sets. And this is actually where most people get it wrong. So what research shows? It shows that shorter rest, anywhere between 30 and 90 seconds, obviously depending on the muscle group, smaller muscle group, 30 to 40 seconds, bigger muscle groups, upper body, anywhere around 60 seconds, legs 60 to 90 seconds. They increase metabolic stress. Now, sustained tension improves cellular swelling and hypertrophy signaling. And long rest is for strength output, while short rest means hypertrophy environment. I've actually dedicated the whole video on that subject, in which I explained that actually when the rest is shorter, you accumulate more metabolic stress and hypertrophy signaling. So not only that your sarcoplasmic growth will benefit, but also your myofibrillar growth, because your sets will be much harder to perform in good form if you rest shorter. And that hardship, that intensity of the next set will actually stimulate your muscle filaments, contractive muscle filaments, myosin and actin, hence myofibrillar growth. So you will have both. And there was another research by Shenfield, it was 2016, which actually proved the benefits of shorter rest for optimal hypertrophy. So what happened with the golden era legends? How did they train? Well, their training was like a chain. You have a set, you have rest, and you have next set. So you don't have that interruption in stimulus. You don't break stimulus. You don't rest. You continue, you build pressure inside the muscle. So you need to understand that the workout is basically a chain. chain made of many pieces, which are sets. So every set should be attached to the next set. As I like to say, every set should step on the tail of the previous one. This is how you accumulate stress. This is how you stimulate hypertrophy signaling. Now, if you rest 3 to 5 minutes between the sets, the chain doesn't exist anymore. Now you're having 20, 30 mini workouts because you completely recover. And you will never exhaust the muscle enough to make that consecutive tension growing until you come to the point that you cannot do more. When I do my last set for chest, in last exercise, I feel that I cannot do anything else. I can't do any extra set or another exercise. I'm done. Chain is done. Why is chain done? Because sets in the chain, pieces in the chain were connected. This is why I can only do 20, 25 sets per chest, and I cannot do more than that. So this is the answer again to those ones who says, oh, why don't we do 100 sets if you just talk about high number of reps? No, it's not arbitrary. It's just something that will come up as a result of proper sets, proper rest between the sets, and obviously proper time under tension and form. And then the number of sets will come for everybody probably different. Some people will end up with 20 sets, some people with 25, some people with 16. It doesn't matter. The principles matter. So imagine this. You're doing bench press, for example, and then you rest 40 to 60 seconds, and then you do another set, and you finish 4 or 5 sets of bench press. Then you go on incline press. You do set, you rest 40 to 60 seconds, again, arbitrarily depending on individual. You do X amount of sets, you come to dumbbell flies or whatever, and you finish your session like that. So what has happened? You're not fully recovering your chest between the sets. You are accumulating stress because rest doesn't determine growth. It doesn't mean if you rest more, you will grow bigger because you're going to be able to lift more in the next set. It determines the type of stimulus. So if you rest short, you will cause the exact stimulus which is necessary for muscle hypertrophy. If you rest longer, you will develop different stimulus which will allow you to lift heavier in next set. So if you're a power lifter, fine, rest 3-5 minutes or longer, whatever you want. But if you're a bodybuilder, think about it twice. You want to build muscle or you want to just lift weights. Now let me address another topic which is very important for this video, and this is obviously stretch and peak contraction. Most people, in order to lift heavier, they simply rush their reps. I see that all the time. People pile so much weight on leg press, and then the reps are very quick and they're also very short. So they don't have a stretch and they don't have a full range of motion, obviously. So they don't do it 3 to 4 seconds per rep. They're doing it 1 second per rep. So if they do 10 sets, 10 reps, they will end up the whole set in 10 seconds. Not enough stimulus. Yeah, but weight is great. It looks amazing for Instagram photos, something like that. Yes, but it's not good for growth. So you basically need to fully extend the muscle under load and then fully contract in exercises which will allow you for peak contraction. Not every exercise allows for peak contraction. For example, when you do biceps curls, yes, you do peak contraction. When you do curls, different curls like leg extensions, leg curls, similar exercises, they allow for peak contraction because of the mechanism of the movement and the biomechanics of the movement. But let's say you do leg press or squats, you can't have peak contraction because you don't fully contract your muscle at the top because you're going to lose tension there. What is most important to understand is that all exercises you need to fully stretch under the load. And this is actually where you are benefiting the most. If you can benefit from peak contraction, like in certain exercises, let's say preacher curls, leg curls again, or leg extensions, or similar, obviously using machines, then you can benefit from peak contraction as well. And also the recent hypertrophy research between 2020 and 2024 have shown that load stretch causes greater muscle growth. Also, peak contraction improves muscle recruitment and control. And time under tension matters more than load alone. So the scientific research has proven again that it's more important for you to have right time under tension and full stretch under load than just to lift heavier, because more often than not, lifting heavier for most people means shorter reps and very short time under tension, and also no full stretch under load. So this is very transparent, and obviously in golden era, people used to focus on control the centric, also the pose and stretch at the bottom, the squeeze at the peak in every exercise. They just didn't lift the weights. So again, bear this in mind when you next time walk into gym and decide to go either just heavy, whatever it takes, or you do it intelligently by using your muscles deliberately for full extension, full contraction, perfect form, and perfect time under tension. I'm going to tell you a short story with a recent client that I had who was in his mid-40s, and he was training 5 times per week, usually, obviously, always heavy weights, believing in that, as most people do. He was resting long between the sets, going to failure, and he had no progress. He thought that he was doing everything right. He was frustrated, he was flat, always tired, his joints were aching. And then he came to me and he said, look, I think I'm doing everything right. I don't know why things are not changing. He was natural, by the way. He said to me, maybe I should start taking steroids in order to start growing. I said, okay, let's assess your training. After I assessed his training principles, obviously, I realized actually what wrongdoing he was making, and we have changed things. So first of all, I stopped him going to failure, because he was so focused on failure that, for example, doing incline dumbbell press for chest, he would just go for heavy weights and to lift absolutely to failure, but the rep was maybe just 1/3. He never went all the way down. He never fully stretched the muscle under load. So we changed it. I said, look, let's go a bit lighter, and don't worry about going to that last rep when you start shaking and twisting your body in order to move that. Forget about it. So we stopped failure, stopped chasing huge weights, obviously improved the form dramatically, and we increased the volume. So he started doing more sets than ever. Obviously, after a couple of weeks, I started cutting the rest between the sets just to make that session more intense. Yes, more intense. Not because he's lifting heavier, but he's making much harder for the muscle to respond, causing more hypertrophy signaling. Focusing on tension, that was another thing, as I mentioned, and within 6 weeks, not just that he got bigger, he just looked completely different. He was full, dense, he started responding again, and his joint problems simply disappeared. Everything was perfect. He was exploding. He was so happy, he couldn't believe it. And we didn't achieve this by training harder. We trained smarter. Now I want you to remember something, and this is very important. They are not separate techniques. So they are all one system. You need to understand that volume builds the stimulus. So you need volume in order to stimulate the muscle to grow as much as possible. Now, short rest maintains that stimulus. So stimulus is not only in the set while you're doing your biceps curls, and then you rest, and then you do it again. Stimulus is across the session. So as long as your biceps workout lasts, whatever, 10, 12, 20 sets, doesn't matter. All those sets together are your stimulus. So if you want to make that stimulus last and give you the best results, you have to maintain the stimulus across your workout. And this will only happen if you rest between the sets as little as necessary. Another thing, tension amplifies the stimulus. So tension is not only related to the weight that you're using, but as explained earlier on, tension is first of all perfect form, meaning full stretch, full contraction, and then time under tension. So all these three things, they are one system. They are one. Miss one of them and you weaken the entire chain. And here is the truth that modern science has finally confirmed, and this is that the muscle growth is not only about intensity, it's about sustained, repeatable stimulus over time. And this is exactly what golden era bodybuilders mastered. And not by theory, by experience. So volume, tension, and recovery. And this is what builds muscle. It is about sustaining the stimulus long enough for the body to adapt. So when someone tells you, you need to go harder, you need to go to failure, you need to lift heavier, just ask yourself, if that worked, why didn't you grow? Usually people who advise on that, they don't look very good. They're not the most muscular guys in the gym, the leanest, the best looking. There are obviously some people who are trying just to prove something to themselves, to lift heavier for whatever reasons. So don't listen to that advice. You better focus on the history of bodybuilding and advice provided in this video, and you will be able to optimally develop your muscles and also lose body fat with no injuries. So after 40 years in bodybuilding, competing 46 times, winning 17 titles, and training over 3,500 clients, helping them to get in the best shape in their lives, I have published for you 12 ebooks which are fully loaded with everything that you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want to expand your knowledge, if you finally want to start growing muscles, stop wasting time in the gym and start burning body fat, simply click on the link in the comments and you can download my ebooks. I have also published for you Bodybuilding Blueprint course, which is made out of 8 videos in which I personally demonstrate and explain the most effective exercises for all major muscle groups. So if you want to learn how to train in perfect form, achieve optimal muscle growth without injuries, Bodybuilding Blueprint course will be the best choice for you. If you want to access it, simply click on that link in the comments and you can finally start training in perfect form. So guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video and send me your comments. And until the next video, I wish you all the best.